All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Winnebago County Board meeting. Tonight is Thursday, April 27th, 2023. Tonight's invocation of Pledge Allegiance is by Board Member John Penny. Please stand.
Everybody liars. Dear Lord, we just praise you for allowing us to come together tonight and continue to give us some wisdom and the ability to think critically, work collectively, and really lift our county and our residents above all else. And in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. Mr. Thompson, do we have any agenda announcements this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It would be my recommendation this evening that the Public Safety and Judiciary report precede the Finance Committee report. They have companion business items. The Public Safety and Judiciary has a resolution. Finance Committee has a companion ordinance. And we should, it would be my recommendation, we adopt the resolution preceding the ordinance.
Very good.
Thank you.
We will make sure that happens. Okay, Clerk Gummo, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This evening, we will start with Mr. Lindmark.
Present.
Mr. McCarthy.
Present.
Mr. McDonald.
Present.
Mr. Neighbors.
Here.
Mr. Penny.
Here.
Mr. Salgado.
Present.
Mr. Scroll.
Here.
Mr. Sweeney.
Present.
Mr. Tassoni.
Present.
Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Webster.
Here.
Mr. Arena.
Here.
Mr. Booker.
Present.
Mr. Butita. Mrs. Crosby. Ms. Fellers.
Present.
Mrs. Gorel. Mr. Guevara. Ms. Hansard. Mr. Hoffman. Thank you all, Mr. Chairman. That is 18 board members present, 2 board members absent.
Very good. We do have a quorum this evening. Before we begin the meeting, I want to acknowledge Jan Kloss is in the county board room. She's got about, I think, four students with her that are taking government classes that need to attend a government meeting. So, Jan, if you can announce who they are and they can stand up. Very good, thank you. Okay, and next, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for Alderman Linda McNeely, who passed away unexpectedly on Monday, a City of Rockford Council member. Linda served on the Rockford City Council since 1997. I actually sat next to her when I was alderman since 2013 to 2020. A very dear friend, a very strong advocate for her ward. Over the next 8 years, I came to know her very well, and I'm very truly blessed to have spent that time with her on the city council. Again, she was very fond of this community, her friends, her family. She will definitely be missed by me and many other people. She did call several times since I've been chairman, just asking for advice and things. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to her family during this time. So if everyone can just stand and have a moment of silence for her. Thank you. All right. Next, we move on to our awards, presentations, public hearings, and public participation. We have 2 speakers tonight, I believe, that are signed up. First is Mr. Brad Long. Is he in the audience? Okay, don't see Brad. Next, we'll move on to Reverend Earl Dotson Sr. If you want to come on up, sir. First, I'm going to read the statement, if that's okay. So comments shall be limited to 3 minutes. Speakers may not address zoning matters which are pending before the ZBA, zoning committee, or the county board. Personnel matters or pending or threatened litigation may not be addressed in open session. An individual may speak a maximum of 3 times per calendar year on the same topic. This prohibition shall include the repetition of the same topic in a statement on what is purported to be a different topic. Personal attacks and inappropriate language of any sort will not be tolerated.
The Bible. Morality demands faithfulness to the Word of God, fidelity, if you will. We black citizens live in a country, America, that has lost its ability to live up to its high founding principles, if she really ever did. No longer one nation under God, indivisible. All of that has been subjugated to the power elite, race, prejudice, and wealth. Particularly so for poorly educated, self-defeated, frustrated black men from 15 to 50 years or older or younger. They are defeated, frustrated, black men defeated and dare to achieve, simultaneously annihilated them for dare to achieve, cutting against the grain. America systematically denies them success. Black men, especially, recognize the American principle of constant illusion, where the dream is a cruel hoax, driving the entire nation to the edge of moral and systemic bankruptcy. You see it everywhere, especially here in Rockford. There are too many examples to count. The land of opportunity, really? If educated black citizens make it, they become freaks to their own people, a showpiece to the larger society, a workhorse for the system that is hostile to their very existence. America has been and shall remain an unprincipled, convoluted, and unredeemable place, denying fidelity to God and stripping black citizens of their dignity and their power and of inequality, restricted privilege, unlawful justice, and the rest. I am so glad to say that I am working with the new black mayor of Chicago, and he has said, I want to have a meeting with the ministers for manufacturing. I have staked out 65 acres of land, 35 on the south side where I was born, 30 on the west side. Land is owned by the city of Chicago. We're saying we're going to put industrial parks in those areas where the jobs in manufacturing pay an average of $85,000. As I told my sons, this will create a tsunami-style wealth that it will address some of the poverty that's going on and the crime that's going on in that city. There's not too many people who want to hear it. It makes me happy to be able to showcase that because the Democratic Party is having a convention there next year. And I want to be able to say, and I'm sure the governor will want to be able to say, look what we're doing for the black citizens here in Illinois. That's what we can showcase. What will Rockford have to showcase other than showcase a bunch of white racist Democrats who want to go over there and free
Excuse me,
the cause
Reverend.
of the people?
Your time is up for today.
Our time is up?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. May I entertain a motion to approve the March 23rd, 2023 minutes and lay over April 13th, 2023 minutes. Got a motion by Mr. Thompson. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McCarthy. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to that motion? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Move on to the consent agenda. Can I entertain a motion to approve the raffle report and the auditor's report? Mr. Hoffman motions, second by Ms. Crosby. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to that motion to approve? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Next are the appointments. Per county board rules, the board chairman appointments require a 30-day layover unless there is a suspension of the rule. We got several to read in this evening. The first is the Cherry Valley Cemetery Association. There's no compensation. First is Mr. David Ward. That's a reappointment until March of 2029. The second is James Clayson. That is also a reappointment. Term ends March 2029. Next is the Seward Sanitary District. There is no annual compensation. The appointee is Andrew Conover, and that is a reappointment until May of 2026. Next is the Cherry Valley Fire Protection District. Annual compensation is $4,500 with certification classes. That is Mr. William LaFever. That is a reappointment, and that is to May of 2026. Next is the Community Action Agency. The annual compensation is none. Placing up Ms. Dorothy Red, that is also a reappointment, and that goes until May of 2024. Next is the Kids Place. His annual compensation of none. I'm placing up Taryn Markle. That is a new appointment to that board. Next is the Durand Sanitary District. The annual compensation is $500. Mr. David Waller is placed up for reappointment, and that ends on May of 2026. The next is the Zoning Board of Appeals. Compensation is $100 per meeting. That is for Janet Klinger, which is a reappointment, and that her term will end in May of 2028. Next is the Northwest Fire Protection District. The annual compensation is $1,000. Appointee is Charles Barnes. That is a reappointment. That term ends May of 2026. The next is the Windburst Sioux Fire Protection District. The annual compensation is $1,500. The appointee is Lauren Gambrill, and that is a reappointment. That term ends May of 2026. We will have more coming soon. All right, next is reports of standing committees. We have adjusted the agenda, so tonight's first committee is going to be the Public Safety Committee, Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Mr. Lindmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 4 resolutions tonight. The first resolution is awarding the sheriff's vehicle automotive maintenance bid at a cost of $225,675, and it is a budgeted item, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark, second by Mr. McCarthy. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
Second resolution is awarding the shelter program for veterinarian supplies in the amount of $75,000, and this too is a budgeted item, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark. Is there a second? By Ms. Crosby. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to approving this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
Our next resolution is to approve the purchase of animal enclosure equipment and installation services for the building project, and this is a budgeted item from the donation fund for the amount of $297,598.85, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark and second by Mr. Webster. Is there any discussion? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
Yeah, the last resolution is authorizing execution of the contract with the Summerall Law Firm to submit an application and negotiate per diem for housing federal detainees in the Winnebago County Jail, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Lindmark, second by Mr. Sweeney. Is there any discussion? None? Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Lindmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That ends it.
Very good. Thank you for the report. Okay, we'll move on to the zoning committee. Mr. Webster.
Thank you, Chairman. We have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. Economic Development Committee, Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Economic Development Committee has one resolution tonight. That is the resolution granting authority to the Winnebago County Board Chairman to execute the documents necessary to complete a loan for $100,000 from the revolving loan fund to Vintage at 501 LTD, and I so move for its adoption.
Moved by Mr. Sweeney. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion on this resolution? Good. Are there any board members opposed to the resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Moving on to Operations Administrative Committee, Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have three resolutions for this evening. The first resolution approving a proposal for the professional services of Larson and Darby Group for Winnebago County Courthouse Code Compliance Repairs, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. Is there a second? By Mr. Lindmark. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is a resolution to approve purchase of vehicles for Sheriff's Department with CIP PSST 2023 funds, and I so move.
We have a motion by Mr. McDonald, a second by Mr. Sweeney. A lot of seconds here. So Sweeney, McCarthy, Thompson. All right. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Mr. Guevara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McDonald, is this a budgeted item?
With CIP funds, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guevara. Any other questions on this resolution? All right, hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to approving this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our last item is a resolution awarding joint pest control services, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. McDonald. Is there a second by Ms. Hansard? Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. McDonald?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes the report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. All right, we'll go on to the Public Works Committee. Mr. Tassoni.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We bring forward a handful of items this evening. First on the agenda is Resolution 23-009, and it's a resolution authorizing a joint funding agreement with the state of Illinois for the Belvedere Road Safety Project and for appropriating local funds, and I would move that item.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Hoffman. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Next on the agenda here is 23-010. It's a resolution authorizing a joint funding agreement with the state of Illinois for the Perryville Path Extension and for appropriating local funds, and I would so move that item.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni. Is there a second by Mr. Webster? Is there any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to the approval of this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Next is item 23-011, and it's a resolution authorizing an agreement with Axum Geospatial LLC for the professional services. I would move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Webster. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Next item is Resolution 23-012, and it's awarding a bid for vegetation control. I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, seconded by Mr. Webster. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. Are there any board members opposed? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. Next item is Resolution 23-014, and it's a resolution authorizing the award of a bid for a Latham Road shoulder paving project, and I would so move.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni, second by Mr. Lindmark. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this resolution? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman. The next three items are just pass-through dollars that the county administers for various townships. I will read those three in and move simultaneously.
Very good.
23-013 is a resolution authorizing the award of bid for Perryville Road and Blackhawk Road resurfacing project in Cherryvale Township. The second item is 23-015, which is a resolution authorizing the award of bid for the 2023 Township Seal Coating Program. And the last item is 23-016, which is a resolution authorizing the award of bid for Guilford Road Box Culvert Rehabilitation in Rockford Township. And I would move those three items.
Moved by Mr. Tassoni for item number 7, 8, and 9, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion on any of these resolutions? Very good. Are there any board members opposed to approving those three resolutions? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to jump back to the Finance Committee. Do we have a board member to report on the finance? Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Finance Committee has one item under regular standing committees, and I want to say 3 on the unfinished business. Yes. So I'd start with the resolution ordinance for a budget amendment contract for Somerville Group LLC, intergovernmental agreement, IGA Solutions for federal detainees consultants to be laid over, but I'd like to suspend the rules and vote on this tonight.
We have a motion to suspend by Mr. Salgado, seconded by Mr. Sweeney. Are there any board members opposed to the suspension of rule this evening? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. The rules are suspended. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Therefore, I move to approve the ordinance for the budget amendment contract, Somerville Group LLC intergovernmental agreement, IGA Solutions for federal detainees consultants, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Lindmark. Is there any discussion on this ordinance? Hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast a yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's 2 items that I'd like to move to send back to committee. The first one is a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2024 budget policy that was laid over on April 13, 2023. And then also with the resolution to approve payment of stipends for regional superintendent and assistant regional superintendent of schools, Boone and Winnebago counties. That was laid over on April 13, 2023. So I'd like to move those to send back to committee.
So there's a motion to send those 2 items back to committee, and a second by Mr. Hoffman. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, can I speak
Motion?
on
Yes.
those, if you don't mind?
Sure.
So after talking to Ms. Arena and Mr. Tassoni, there's a couple questions regarding, and if they want to speak on those, this is the time to do so. But we feel that, I feel that those need to be sent back to the committee and have a further discussion and to have some answers to some of the questions. Primarily it has to do with the oversight board for the CIP projects. There's a question regarding that. There's also an amendment that was given to me earlier. So that's something that needs to be, it should be on your desk maybe. It's one of these here. So that and obviously revenue funds for the cannabis and the casino revenue. And Mr. Tassoni, I'll hand it over to you if you want to elaborate a little bit.
Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And like I said, myself, along with, I've had some conversation with some of my colleagues. When I was reading through the document, it was roughly around page 6 or 7 of the ordinance, just was uneasy about the allocation of all casino, or not casino, but all of the cannabis tax to be put into the general fund and used as such. I was uneasy with that. I've heard discussion from others that they'd like to see some specific allocations of those funds, putting it in the general fund, just is up for grabs for anything and everyone. And then I was a bit uneasy that there was no allocation of casino revenues that was specifically designated to roads and infrastructures. So those are the two items I'd like to have more discussion on and see how everybody else feels. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. Mr. Guevara, no? Any other discussion? on
Yes,
the-
and if I
Yes.
may, Mr. Chairman, sorry. The next one, the stipends, we'd like to bring Mr. Scott Bloomquist to address the committee for further questions and kind of give us his side of the story based on the $25,000, the $15,000 stipend that he's requesting. So that's why we're sending it back to committee. That has nothing to do about potentially getting rid of it. So just for everybody's information on that.
Very good. Is there any other discussion on the motion to send these two items back to committee? Mr. Arena.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify on the, Mr. Bloomquist, his request was, and he may appear in committee as well, but he very much wants to have the opportunity to present to this full board periodically, you know, he suggested quarterly, to make us aware of what his office does, his achievements. He was enthusiastic about that, so I wanted to make all of you aware of his request, and I feel we should give him that opportunity prior to voting on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Any further discussion on the motion to send back to committee? No? Are there any board members opposed to that? No? Okay. Please cast yes for all members present. So the two items are sent back to committee. Thank you, Mr. Salgado.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our last item is the ordinance for approval of budget amendment for reimbursable technology expenditures laid over from April 13, 2023 meet, and I so move.
Moved by Mr. Salgado, second by Mr. Thompson. Is there any discussion on this item, Mr. Salgado?
No, just there's no cost to the county. It's $167,295.
Very good. And board member discussion on this ordinance? All right, hearing none, are there any board members opposed to this ordinance? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Mr. Salgado.
That concludes our finance report.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you,
very
Mr. Salgado. Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Second part of it are the appointments that were read in on March 23rd, 2023. There were several. First is the Four River Sanitation Authority. The annual compensation is $6,000 per year. Up for reappointment is Benjamin Bernstein. That term ends 2026. And the second is Mr. Rick Pollack. That is also a reappointment, and his term ends April of 2026. Next is the Harlem Roscoe Fire. It's the annual compensation is not to exceed $1,500 plus a 50% if ambulance service is needed. That's Mr. John Donahue. That is a reappointment. His term will end in May of 2026. Next is the North Park Public Water District. The annual compensation is not to exceed $1,200 a year, and that is for Deborah Nelson, and that is also a reappointment. Her term would end in May of 2028. Can I entertain a motion? Motion to approve by Mr. Guevara, second by Mr. Sweeney. Is there any discussion on these appointments this evening? Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to speak to item A, which is the Four River Sanitary Authority, a very well-run organization, and I just want to point out that, you know, that's a very large operation that does some very important things in this community, you know, development especially, and, you know, the appointments to this board are of a require certain political party aspects to them. And here you have, one Democrat, one Republican appointment, and I had the honor of serving with them both, and they're both excellent board members, and that board being the only representation the taxpayers have to that, line item on their tax bill, that these two gentlemen do a great job and a great service to the community, so.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Any other discussion on these appointments, A, B, and C? All right, hearing none. Are there any board members opposed to these appointments? Very good. Please cast yes for all members present. Thank you. Move on to new business. Is there any new business in front of the board this evening? Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've placed a resolution on everyone's desk that has sponsorships, co-sponsorships from myself, Mr. Arena, Mr. Scroll, Ms. Hansert, and Mr. Torelli, and anyone else that would like to hop on the bandwagon obviously would be welcome. This is just who, the universe that was spoken to in a relatively short period of time, but this is basically a resolution directing county administration to do a thorough review of certain vulnerabilities on the Winnebago County Administration Building, to incorporate recommendations from a study done by the Department of Homeland Security that we received last February 9th of 2022, and to seek input from different departments within the county building. Last Thursday, Ms. Skelmau, thank you for taking the time to show me around. There were some points of concern that I'm not gonna get into here. Maybe they're best left for committee, but some legitimate concerns that we need to tidy up. And I know that there's plans for a metal detector and a deputy to be there, but there's definitely more than that. And recognition of the fact that, our employees are very important to us and their safety. And so on behalf of them and their families, I respectfully submit this to the Operations Committee, where Mr. McDonald has kindly agreed to give it a hearing.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Is there any other new business in front of the board this evening? Mr. Lindmark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to take a minute to thank Sheriff Caruana for his hard work negotiating this new contract with the federal detainees and bringing additional funds to the county. Thank you for your hard work.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lindmark. Any other new business? Very good. Announcements and communications. Clerk Gummow.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity. I first would like to thank everyone that voted in the April 4th election. We did certify the results to the state on Tuesday, so the official results are officially official now. Many races were determined by very few votes. So if anyone says their vote is not important and not counted, this is a race and an election where they were. I would like to take the opportunity also to thank the election judges and my staff for conducting a safe and secure election. Also, a reminder for all of you that do not have your statement of economic interests submitted. May 1st is the deadline, so make sure that you get this in to our office as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clerk Gummow. Any other board member communications? Very good. Mr. Webster.
Move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Webster to leave the meeting. We got a second by Mr. Guevara and Mr. Thompson. Anybody opposed to leaving this evening? Very good. We are adjourned. Thank you.